Hello, hello. Welcome to Lunch and Learn. How is everybody? Do I get to see some faces today? Ooh, we got a quiet group today. Hey, Mari. Hi, Kathy. How are you guys? Mari, I may or may not see you Friday. There's a chance I may not make it, but it's gonna be a really good event. So make sure you go meet Taylor and Kara when you're there. Good. I'm glad you'll be there. Hi, Charlene.
Hi, Sharon.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. My favorite curls in the world.
Oh gosh, just got out of the shower.
This is a good one for today. All right,
Okay.
all right. Do we have any wins, accomplishments, anything that anybody wants to share today? Any events coming up? Anybody with a win or accomplishment? This is a quiet week. Okay, we got a good topic today, so I may just hand it right over to Michael and dive right into it. Any events coming up that anybody wants to share, though? Okay, we're going to dive right in. Michael, I am handing it off to you. Let me try and share the PowerPoint screen.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, everyone. I'm not in my usual studio setting with the cool neon lights behind me. I am in transit, shuttling puppies around to the vet. So all is well. But I want to thank everyone that's on today's Lunch and Learn. And as the title on the screen says, Your Personality Matters. This was a topic we were going to cover last week in regards to personality and personality assessments and how they can assist and you better knowing yourself as well as your staff used in hiring. So let's dive in. Next slide. Awesome. So today we're going to take a look at how you can learn more about yourself and others through personality. We're going to discover what makes each of us unique and discuss the strengths of each of the personality styles. What happens is we all have different personalities. I'm going to talk about one in particular in terms of personality assessments called the DISC profile. Next slide. So I want to stop right there for 1 second. Just go back one bullet point.
We may not be able to.
No
Oh,
worries.
there we go.
Worries.
There we go.
Little back arrow action. All right. So question for you. How many of you are familiar with using personality assessments, be it DISC profile, Myers-Briggs? How many of you heard of that? Give me a thumbs up or give me a little acknowledgement in the chat if you've heard of using those. Mari says yes. Excellent. Anyone else? Charlene says yes, she's familiar with it. Kathy says, yep, awesome. And of those that are familiar with it, how many of you have taken either the Myers-Briggs, DISC profile, or Keirsey? So instead of the yes, let me know which one you've taken, if you know the name of it. Or maybe you say, I forgot, but okay. So Mari, she's familiar with it, but hasn't taken any. No worries. Anyone else who said, yes, you're familiar with it, have you taken it? No. Okay, all right. Well, this is exactly why it's here. I've taken Myers-Briggs. Kathy says she hasn't taken it. No worries. And for what we're going to talk about today, you won't have kind of a leg up. Oh, the bird personality. Okay. Haven't heard of that one, but I'm sure it's cool and related to personality. So no one's really going to have a leg up in terms of what they've taken. This doesn't skew one side or the other. But today we are going to talk about the DISC profile, which is based on the D, I, S, and C personality types. And we'll take a deep dive into that. But why are we even approaching this? The reason is that once we start to look at our personality, we do two things. We gain a greater understanding of who we are, why we do what we do, how we respond under pressure. You'll hear me say that a lot today. And it'll give you a better understanding of how others communicate, how others respond to under pressure, what motivates them, what demotivates them. Now, with this information, we don't use it for evil. I have to make that point. We don't use this information to manipulate. We don't use this information to control someone. We use this information to be able to motivate. Because a lot of times people join our organizations, or we may be hiring, and they don't say, hey, words of affirmation, love it. I really need clear feedback. I'm a detail-oriented person. It's not what they say. When people come to our organizations, they talk about, oh, this is what I've done. This is my experience. That's what they say. Okay, so we'll go to the first bullet. All right. So again, personality is shaped by your environment, your experiences, what you're around, your family, your coworkers. And there are different aspects of personality. I always get the question, well, if I take a DISC profile, isn't it going to be different for me as a dad or me at a job? It is. You have a different view of yourself and a different personality at home that you do in the workplace. Next. And it changes over time. Absolutely, it changes over time. I took the DISC profile first in my early 20s, and needless to say, mine has changed over time. 3 kids later, married 20 plus years, and a whole lot of life experiences. It changes. So what a DISC profile or an assessment will do will assess what those changes have been. It'll help identify areas of kind of weakness. I look at it as the DISC profile serves to be almost a rear view mirror or a blind spot mirror to your life and personality. Next. It's adaptable. Yes, your personality is adaptable. I'll use myself as an example. Early on in my career, when I was under pressure, one of the things the personality assessment showed is that I talk too freaking much when I'm under pressure. So you know what that meant? If I was in a pressure situation, boop, I would quiet down. I would compose myself more. And personality assessments can show you kind of the blind spots. Next. It leads directly to behavior. Your personality leads directly to how you respond to people and outcomes. And so when we take a look at it, we're going to take a look at the 4 personality types according to DISC and how that leads to behavior. And what I want you to do is when I go into the personality types, I'll take time out a little bit for you to identify like, oh, I think I'm a D. I think I'm an I. I think I'm an S. I think I'm a C. It naturally will happen. All right, next. It also shapes how you respond to pressure. That's what I'm going to keep coming up because when we're under pressure, we're very different than how we are, say, in an interview, or we're doing a presentation, or maybe we're talking to a donor, maybe we're hiring someone. Those are all different situations. But how you respond under pressure, most people don't know how they respond to pressure. They kind of do. They say, well, I get a little nervous, but how do you respond? Do you quiet down? Do you speak up more? Are you more precise? I'll give you a good example. You have a nonprofit. All of a sudden, there's an audit that has to happen. Your person in finance is asking for a whole bunch of information. Well, that may put a little pressure on you. Do you all of a sudden close off where you can't be found and you're not responding to emails? Or do you become more talkative, more responsive, and it's an all hands on deck meeting? How you respond to pressure is important, especially in your roles, as well as when you're hiring people, knowing how they respond. Next. All right. So what is the DISC personality assessment? Next. And you can put up all the bullets on this one. So it's a 30-question assessment. It's answered online. You take it in one sitting. The results are based on thousands and thousands of data points. And it should be given by a certified professional like myself. I'm certified to not only give the personality assessment, but to interpret the results and come up with a roadmap, a game plan after you get the results. Many people take assessments and I'll say, what did you take? And they'll say, oh, I took Myers-Briggs. Well, what were your results? Oh, I was EIFG, I was this, I was that. Well, what did you do with it? So when you get your results of your personality assessment, you can actually create a roadmap, a game plan. Maybe your assessment shows that you need to be more open to creative ideas, meaning that maybe within your personality type, you only like ideas that are tested, that are proven. You're not into new ideas. Just go back one if possible. I know we're driving, it's a little different. It's okay. All right.
The computer has a
So
mind of
here's an
stone.
overview. It's all right. It's all right. It really does because it's going way past. Yeah, it's okay. So hands up. Now hands down, and let's see if we can go back a couple slides.
Yeah, let's see.
No back arrow. It's not responding. Even
There
if
we
you
go.
exit out, go back
There we
in.
go.
Yep,
There we go.
perfect. Back one more. Awesome, awesome. See, we're dealing with some pressure and adversity now. I was in transit. I had to send the slides, and I'm working through it. All right. So again, it's given by a certified professional, and what you're going to learn, what motivates you, how you respond to pressure, how you perceive yourself within your environment, and your best method of communication with the other personality types. Okay, next. Yeah, it's a little delayed, probably just one click. There we go. So here's a chart of the different personality types. So the D stands for dominant, the I stands for influencing, the C stands for compliant, the S stands for steady. Now, the descriptions along the outside, when you have someone that's a DI, they're usually outgoing. ISs are usually people-oriented. Someone who's a CS is usually very reserved. Someone who's a DC can be often task-oriented. Okay, so remember early on I said, well, I'm going to talk to you about what a D, I, S, and C. Well, you also have combination personalities where you can be a really strong, dominant D, but maybe you're a blend of a D and an I. So I will tell you, I am an ID. Okay, my highest is I, the influencing. I then followed by a D, which I had to work on and bring up the dominant side. There was a time in my career when I was a little, I'll just tell you, it was almost like, oh, wanting to please people. But if anybody here's been in the nonprofit space long enough, you know you can't please everyone, to say the least. So I brought up that D. That was and we'll take a look at what that trait is, but I brought that up quite a bit. All right. I want to pause right now. Are there any questions before we look at the personality styles? Any questions right now? All right, next. So now we're going to take a look at each individual personality style. So I'm going to get this up on my screen here because that is so small. One moment. All right, so the D personality, they're going to be driven by authority, will easily take control. Okay, so imagine you're sitting in a group. Who's going to be the leader? That D personality says, I'll do it. They embrace any change that will help them get results. They don't do change for just change's sake. Very comfortable with responding to direct confrontation. These are the type of people you sit down with them. They want to know, okay, so what's the bottom line? Treasure loyalty. They seek results. Active multitasker, can handle multiple projects at once. Greatest fear, being taken advantage of. And I've done this assessment long enough that our fearless leader, Dr. Sharon, has a D personality followed by another letter, which I'll talk about, but she will easily take control. She's comfortable with direct confrontation. I mean, Dr. Sharon, as long as it's not explain who you are. Okay, she's talking there. And what happens is you see leaders of organizations often, oh, she gave me a double thumbs up. will often have that strong D personality. Executive directors, CEOs, okay, vice presidents, they'll often have that strong D personality, and we need this. And I will tell you, as we go through them, there's no one of personality traits that like, oh, we don't really need this one. We need them all. Okay, we need all personality types. All right, next. This is the I personality style, very relationship oriented, emotional, animated, great storyteller, encourager, treasures great experiences with others, seeks a friendly environment, always active, greatest fear, rejection, and loss of approval. Okay. Now, as we've gone through these, tell me in the chat if you've either identified yourself or someone you know. So I'd love to hear it. Yes, that's me. I'm a D or an I. Or you say I definitely know a person. Anyone recognize these? Let me know in the chat. All right. D and I both so far, Kathy says. Yeah. And you can be a blend. Charlene says she's an I. Okay, good, good, good. And don't think that, oh my gosh, if I'm not a D, I won't be a great leader. Not at all. What happens is, remember we said that we're a blend of the different personality styles. So what happens is you may just have to bring that D side of your personality up. And there's ways to do that. All right, next. In the hiring process, I had to take this. What does it say? I had to take this. Can't see it. Oh, can you read that in the chat, Dr. Sharon?
In the hiring
That
process, I had to take this test and I was a DI.
Oh, okay, very cool.
Flow.
Awesome, awesome. Great, great, great. All right. So the S personality style, this is easygoing and agreeable, evenly paced, good listener, compassionate, treasures peaceful relationships, seeks a team environment, very loyal, greatest fear, loss of security or confrontation. And it is very important to identify what your greatest fear is and know what the greatest fear of it in others. Okay, why? Because these things also become motivators. There are people that, I'll explain to you this way, that work a certain way because they're dealing with one of their greatest fears. There are people that check reports 2, 3, 4 times because they have a fear of criticism, right? Loss of security and confrontation. Maybe if they have a fear of confrontation, maybe that's the person where under pressure. Okay, someone says, that's me, S personality type. Yep. And again, we need all of these. I can't stress it enough. I hope if you're seeing this for the first time, don't think that, oh, if you're any one personality type is better. Nope. They all have value in your organization. Okay, next. The C personality style. This is going to be your compliant, conscientious, accurate, detail-oriented, treasures perfection, seeks an environment that honors logic and facts. And I'm going to call out my buddy who's on the line, Ruby, right? Ruby has a C personality style. She's in finance. I need my finance people to be C, to be compliant, conscientious, to seek accuracy. Ruby, if you're there, are you able to come off mute?
I am a total C personality. All of that. Yeah.
There you go. Yep. And I didn't even give you this test yet. You're taking it, but I didn't even give you this yet, right? You're a C.
Yeah.
And think about this. Imagine you put you and me, and say I as an I'm like, you hire me on your team. I don't like proofreading stuff, and I'm all over the place in terms of accuracy. I don't have an assistant yet, and I start sending you stuff with a whole bunch of errors. How would that make you feel, Ruby?
I would have a lot of anxiety over that. I would throw it back to you and say, hey, you know.
Exactly. Exactly. So now think about even during the hiring process, you're going through resumes and yeah, they have skills, but do they have the personality to truly succeed at the role? That's the kind of edge that this will give you. Thank you for that, Ruby. I appreciate your seeing-ness. All right, next. All right, so that's the D, I, S, and C. Any questions right now? We can stop sharing. Any questions at all regarding this profile? Any questions at all? A couple of things about it, if you want to put some questions in the chat. I always make a point that it's not about any one personality style. Many times you're a blend. So you can be a DIS or DISC, okay? And I will tell you that if you take this test now and you take it 5 years from now and you've kind of gone through life, it will change slightly. I use this 25 years ago. I gave my wife one. Now, it wasn't a prerequisite. Whatever she scored was whatever she scored, but she took the DISC profile, and it was so interesting. One of the things that came up on her DISC profile, it said, if yelled at, her personality, she'll shut down. And to this day, if I yell, she'll shut down. Right? Now she snaps back, but she will just basically, it shuts her down. That's not her thing. So these are the type of things that come out. And the way you can use it for your team is that if you're considering hiring people, I want to look at that note. I can't see the chat. Ruby, can you tell me what that last message was?
That's a good one. I got it. Ruby said that she totally gets it's not meant to be punishment to be held against other people with other personality types, but how do you suggest working through issues that are different? How do you meet halfway, as the saying goes? That's a good one.
Yes. Okay, well, there's two sides of this. If you give it to an existing team already in place, this is not grounds to, you're not in the right role, you need to move on. What happens is they can then assess where they're at in terms of their personality, and the assessment actually will make recommendations in terms of how to be more productive. And it's also, the report is going to tell you how to better respond to other personality types. That is the second biggest edge you'll get. So for example, as an I, when I go to communicate with Dr. Sharon, I could tell her, oh my God, the call was great. This happened and we chatted and I didn't know they had a dog. And she'll say to me, okay, so give me the numbers, give me the stats, give me some detail here, right? So when I know that I'm, as an I, when I go to communicate with a D, I have to have my facts, my figures. I know that when I have to communicate with Ruby, again, I could talk about all the emotional and the lovey-dovey stuff and the encouragement stuff that I love. She wants to know, okay, so did you send me over the spreadsheets? Are they accurate? Do we need to go over them? So the way we temper that is one.
Did you document it?
Yeah, exactly. Did you document it? That's a famous line, right? So the way we work through it, so it's not kind of used against, it's understanding that we're using it as a tool to better communicate with each other in the roles that we have, that we are right now. If you're using it during the hiring process, beyond just looking at a resume or having that polished interview, you get a better understanding of who they are. And most people, I've heard of some situations where people had to take it and then, as they move through the hiring process, but more often than not, you were hired and then they took it for you to be able to, one, better know who you are, as well as be able to better communicate with others. It's a great edge. For example, I'll give you a good example, and please put some more questions in the chat. When someone presents, I can show you how to present to all personality types. Imagine, because sometimes no one's going to come into a room, a group of donors are not going to say, hey, I'm a D, I'm an I, I'm a C, I'm going to want to know their numbers. I'm an S, I'm looking for how steady you're going to be and how long you're going to be around. No one comes into the room like that. But say if I presented like this. Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Clark from NPP, and I'm just going to let you know we'll be here for 30 minutes. In the session, we're going to cover our 5 pillars of what makes a nonprofit successful. All of the slides will be available after the meeting. And if anyone has any questions about any information in the slides, there are footnotes so you can do further research. I told the D how long we're going to be there to respect their time. I did a heavy report intro for my I's that like to build relationship. For my C's that want that precise information, I let them know they'll have the slides afterwards, as well as the link to the research. Okay. So you can literally communicate to multiple personality types. When I prepare someone for a donor meeting and we've taken the DISC profile, I really work with them to make sure that during the process, because a donor may be asking, well, how many people have you served? Okay. And how many you plan to serve in 2025? And can I see, your books? That's a C. Where another donor might say, okay, this is great, but are you building relationships with other corporations? Are you involved in the community? So maybe they're more I driven. Okay. So any questions at all? Any questions? So in the chat, let me know, do you think you're a D, an I, or S, or a C? Even if you let me know, just if you could let me know again, whether you think you're a D, I, S, or C. And I'd love to see what comes up.
I have a question, Michael. Do you ever run into leaders who can act a certain way if they need to, based on the environment, based on the staff? And what does that look like to you? And how a lot of times nonprofit founders, like, they may be one of these, but they need to be something else in a certain environment or dealing with an employee?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's, to your point, that's why we're going to even take the DISC. We have to find out where we are. And then to your point, in some environments, you need to be that executive director and that, very precise, be able to take confrontation and be very direct. But I will tell you, without a tool like this, what happens is you find that you go into meetings and you say stuff like, well, I don't know what happened, or I don't know how it came off, or where if you have this information, you're able to adapt to the environment. And I see the term code switching. I don't see this as code switching as much as it is if I understand how to best communicate with Dr. Sharon, where she needs to be a little more direct, then being direct isn't code switching, in my opinion. Being more relational for people that you discern are more relational isn't code switching. I look at that as totally like, I focus on the word switch, where you're literally just, I don't know that people kind of can do that successfully and on an ongoing basis without some inner turmoil. Where once you know this and about the personality types, if you get into a room with a Ruby, I don't have to code switch to make sure that I check all my numbers. I don't have to code switch when I'm preparing for a meeting with Ruby, because I understand that based on her personality types, I can best communicate with her a particular way. So hope that helps. And part of it is, and I will tell you, this is a very much an introduction. The report that you get is over 30 pages long, and we walk through it together. If anybody's interested in taking it, feel free to email Dr. Sharon. And Ruby says D equals dominant. That's right. Yep. I influencing, C compliant, and S is steady.
No. Oh, somebody has their hand raised.
Let me get Joe, go ahead, and then Flo, we'll get you next.
Hey,
Yes.
I really appreciate this topic. Sometimes I forget, like, being like the work that I'm doing, and the population, it's kind of like a language, right? Like, is a language we use to connect with young people, and I want to say I've had my share of experiences, but kind of like to what you were saying right now, like I think learning how to navigate, client and management and other orgs and also setting boundaries. You know, it's probably been one of the most, I mean, it's like challenging, but it's not challenging. I don't know, like, you know, it's like where I know I need to cut this boundary. Like, okay, this is a client. I need to, you know, I can't go hang out with them. I can't invite them, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I almost want to say that's, yeah, sometimes it's still a challenge. I mean, like, because I try to stay me all the time in all the
Sure.
settings. So like, I really try to bring my authentic self to everywhere I go. But yeah, working with community members, working with different orgs, working with service providers, working with young people, family members, you know, is like a certain language, like, yeah, like it could get challenging for some on the ground,
Yeah.
on the ground, people versus like on here, like, you know, it's like we're talking the same language, you know,
Yeah.
and somebody else could jump on and is like, what the hell are these people talking about boundaries? Like,
Exactly. No, that's good, Joe. And Joe, you know, Joe works with NPP. He'll be taking the disc profile, and so he'll be able to get that insight too. So good stuff.
Can you
All right.
hear
Any
me?
other questions? Yep, sure can.
Yes, when I'm looking at them, it's like, thank you, Dr. Sharon, for actually asking that question and being able to like, when you go into a place and into a room of people, you kind of adjust, to what's actually needed, at that time. And I was always like, shoot, why can't I just be a DIC or a DIS? Because I can just, and sometimes it gets confusing because, like, although I am a dominant leader, I am just as well. I follow just as well,
Yeah.
if need be. So
And if you
I just
remember,
wanted
you
to,
can be a combination. Like
Mhm.
if you're top, you can have like a top three, but usually there's one dominant, then a secondary, and then a third. And
Right.
as you are also working with NPP, both you and Gantry will also get the disc profile.
Yay.
Yep.
It's been years, so I'm ready to see what it kind of looks like now.
Yep. See how you've changed, and if there's some areas we want to just work on. And at the end of the day, this is so you can better communicate with others. You better understand yourself, and you better communicate with other personality types. I'll tell you, there were some people I used to work with in law, and they used to be so like, oh, I'm just like, why are they so? And they're just mean. When all they were is just a strong, deep personality. And in turn, I had to be very direct with them, be very precise. They weren't trying to be mean. It wasn't personal. So when you learn this aspect of personality, there's some people that kind of rub you the wrong way that you'll find that you can better communicate with them. And you find out it's less about you and more about just who they are as a person and their personality. So I hope that helps too. I get along with a lot more people because of this profile. I'll just tell you that. You will. Any other questions? Anything in the chatty chat? Anything? Dr. Sharon?
No, I'm really curious to know what would be some of the, like, who are some of the top leaders in the world and what are they? Do you have any of that information? And like, you're on mute, Michael. And like, I want to know an example of an ugly one.
An ugly one?
Yeah, is there an ugly one?
I can't answer that one. I think ugly is just ugly. It ain't got nothing to do with the disc profile. But in the disc profile, it actually identifies famous people that have the same traits, like everybody from Gandhi to Martin Luther King. I will tell you that the high D is about 3% of the population, believe it or not. And those tend to be the CEOs, those tend to be the partners at law firms. And so usually someone who's a really extremely high D is about, they say about 3% of people. But yeah, I can't say it's so much the other side, because I think there's, that can come out across any any letter. But
And kind of
Any
go
other
over a little
questions?
bit. Yeah, another question for you, one from the chat group. We've got Kavito Clark. He started a new nonprofit, like just brand new started it. He's been operating for a while though, and he is looking at establishing his board of directors. What would be a cool way? Like, would you recommend that he have all of them do a DISC assessment and that he could evaluate that based on their DISC assessment where their role should be on the board? And how can he
Yeah.
leverage that for the
Yeah.
success of his board?
So imagine this. You want your board of directors to be ones that do outreach for you, that do emails, that call, that go out and get money for you. But the person that has raised their hand that wants to be on your board is a really low I. Just a really low I, low D. They're steady, compliant, but not outgoing at all. That person may literally struggle being out there and the front person for your nonprofit. Now, board of directors, you can play many different roles, right? There are some people that go out and ask for money. There's some people that lend their services. But if you're looking for one, them in a role where they're going to be outgoing, if they're gonna, because I would love to have. I'll just tell you in terms of personality types, having a DI on my board, that means that they're going to be out there building relationships, that they're going to be able to make the tough decisions when I need them as a board member. Also, an S wouldn't be bad either, because they're also going to be steady and loyal. They're not going to, a high I with low loyalty is like, I wanted to be on your board last year, but I'm not really feeling it, right? So there's certain things that we would be looking for, but hope that helps. But one thing I recommend is before you say, for someone else, get it for yourself. That way you'll also be able to kind of discern the personality types when you meet people. So, and I saw the message in there noted. So good. And DISC is best, DISC is best used when taken. It's one of those things where I know sometimes we'll pop onto something, hear it, and it's like, oh, I know about DISC. When you take it yourself, I know Flo's taking it, Joe's taking it, Gantry's going to be taking it. DISC, DISC. DISC. I saw that question come up in the chat. Yes, yep, there we go. Awesome. Any other questions? Yep, the recording will be in the NPP University. If anyone's interested in taking the DISC profile, just shoot an email over to Dr. Sharon. The DISC profile includes you to get the DISC, as well as we walk through it together to come up with a game plan of how to essentially utilize your personality traits. And there's an area on the report that says areas to work on. And we actually come up with a game plan together on those areas to work on. Any recommended reading for first timers, first time nonprofit operators? I'll let you answer that, Dr. Sharon.
For DISC, I'm not sure. Michael, I think he
Yeah,
wants.
no, not for DISC. I
full-
think I think he meant like in general, since he's new to nonprofit.
Oh, Kevin, is that right? If you want some readings, I got a good one for you. This book right here. I don't know if I'll be able to show it in the screen, but I'll put it in the chat. How to Save the World in 6 Not So Easy Steps. Bringing out the best in nonprofits. That's been my most favorite one recently. It's also on the newer side. It talks about inspiration and frustration. Various nonprofit leaders were interviewed. What to do about the worst of times, weaknesses in nonprofits, planning process, persevering, prioritizing, questions to ask, how to pivot, how to publicize, share ideas, and hold yourself accountable. Really good book. Kevin, I'll take a picture of it, but I'm going to put and send it to you, but I'm going to put the name of it in the chat. How to save the world in 6 not so easy steps.
All right, I'm back.
It's a really good book. Oh, I bet. So Kevin's working on his founder's message, and the editing process has been an example in being vulnerable.
Okay. Okay. Good. Good. And we do have a couple of videos in there about messaging and pitch and messaging. So in the university. Anyone else before we wrap? Awesome. I'm going to hand it back to you, Sharon. Ruby, thank you for letting me workshop with you and handing it back to Dr. Sharon. Thank you, everyone. And again, if you're interested in taking the DISC profile, just reach out to Dr. Sharon.
Awesome. Thanks so much. We
You're
have one more question from Kevin. Is it valuable to read the message to others or let them read it for themselves? Are you talking about like your founder's message and things like that? I would definitely, like, when you're doing your onboarding of your board members, and if you have something that's very customized and specific to you and your organization, I would include that as part of the process in when you're speaking with them. And I think it's very valuable to share that message with others, have them read it, but also, you know, share it with them too, because everyone's got a different learning style. Some folks like to read, some folks like to see, some folks like to hear. So just do them all. Kevin, you can't hurt anybody with redundant communication.
Couldn't agree more.
Awesome. Awesome. That was a good one. So we will take today's recording. I will put it in the Nonprofit Plug University. If you are not yet in the university, let me put a link to that right now for you in the chat and join our university. There's over 200 people in our university right now. Let me get that link. Okay, I just put the link to joining the university in the chat. Join us on there. Come join us every single Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, right here on Zoom for the Lunch and Learn. We'll see you all in the MPP University. Post questions on the board. We'll get to answering those. We'll put more recordings in there. We'll start dropping grant opportunities there and other resources. Y'all are off the hook for this week. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a fantastic week, you guys.